My cousin live-streamed a family dinner, where my mom called me a desperate failure, even though I'd been paying her medbills for 5 years. She laughed while describing how pathetic my life was. So I blocked her number. I couldn't believe what I was watching. My chest tightened as I stared at my phone screen, where my mother sat at our family dining table, wine glass in hand, completely unaware she was being broadcast to the internet. "Oh please," my mom scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. "My daughter thinks selling houses makes her successful. She couldn't hack it in nursing school, and now, she's just wandering through life like a desperate failure." My cousin Jenna had texted me an hour ago, "You need to see this. I'm so sorry." She'd attached a link to her latest live stream, part of her ongoing attempt to become a social media influencer. I'd been out of town at a real estate conference in Providence, when the family gathered for Sunday dinner, and I was just settling into my hotel room when the message came through. "My name is Said Sullivan. I'm 32 years old, and for the past 5 years, I've been quietly paying my mother's medical bills after her rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis. I've been driving her to appointments, handling her insurance paperwork, and covering her medication costs, all while working 60-hour weeks to maintain my real estate business in Boston." No one at that dinner table knew that I'd emptied my savings account last year, when her insurance denied coverage for a specialized treatment. "It's such a shame," my mother continued on the video, seeming to relish the attention from my aunts and uncles. "All these grand dreams about becoming a nurse, and now she just sells houses to people who actually succeeded in life." She laughed, and to my horror, I could hear my uncle and aunt chuckling along with her. Jenna's camera caught everything. I could see she was filming from her lap, probably trying to be discreet while documenting everyday family life for her social media followers. My mother had no idea she was being recorded, which made her words all the more devastating. "Remember when she dropped out of nursing school?" My mother turned to my aunt. "She came home crying about how hard the exams were. Pathetic. And now she acts like selling a house every few months makes her successful." The truth was that I'd put my nursing education on hold specifically to help her when she got sick. I was making decent money in real estate, but every extra penny went to her medical care instead of back to school. Just doesn't have what it takes," my mother sighed dramatically, reaching for her wine glass, the same wine I'd purchased for family dinners. "Some people just aren't cut out for real achievement." The live stream continued for another excruciating minute before Jenna finally turned the camera away. I sat frozen in my hotel room, tears streaming down my face as the bitter reality sank in. For years, I'd told myself that my mother's occasional harsh comments were just her pain talking, or her old-school approach to motivation. But this wasn't a momentary relapse. This was who she truly was, and now there was undeniable proof. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Jenna. "I'm so sorry you had to see that. I didn't realize what she was saying until it was too late. Do you want me to take the video down?" I stared at the message for a long moment. "No," I typed back, "leave it up. I need to show you something tomorrow when I get back." The drive back from Providence the next morning was a blur. I barely remembered checking out of the hotel, or the 2-hour journey home. My mind kept replaying my mother's words, her laughter as she mocked the career I built to support her. 5 years ago, my life had been on a completely different path. I was 27, halfway through nursing school, and thriving. I'd always wanted to be a nurse, to help people, to make a difference. Then came the call that changed everything. Mom had collapsed at work and been rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis, aggressive rheumatoid arthritis that would require ongoing treatment and care. "It's not fair," she'd cried from her hospital bed. "How am I supposed to afford all this? The insurance barely covers anything." I'd held her hand and promised, "We'll figure it out together, Mom." My father had passed away when I was in high school, leaving Mom and me to rely on each other. Despite her criticisms and occasional harsh words, I believed we had a bond that mattered. She'd sacrificed for me, growing up, working extra shifts, making sure I had opportunities, and now it was my turn to step up. Within months, I made the difficult decision to pause my nursing education. Real estate had flexible hours and the potential for good money. I could drive Mom to appointments, handle her care, and still earn enough to cover our growing expenses. It was supposed to be temporary, just until she stabilized, just until I could save enough to return to school, but temporary turned into years. Mom's condition had improved with the treatments, but she still needed expensive medications, regular specialist visits, and physical therapy. I'd become the sole manager of her healthcare, spending hours arguing with insurance companies and researching treatment options. "You've become so responsible," she would occasionally say, and in moments of appreciation, those words had sustained me through countless sleepless nights and stressful work weeks. I pulled into my driveway and sat in silence. I hadn't told Mom I was coming back today. She thought I was still in Providence, networking with other realtors at the conference, an opportunity I'd cut short after seeing the video. My phone buzzed, a text from Jenna. "I'm at the coffee shop on Maple, can meet whenever you're ready." I took a deep breath and tried to organize my thoughts. Opening my laptop bag, I pulled out a folder labeled Mom Medical. Inside was a meticulously documented record of every payment I'd made over the last 5 years, every insurance premium, every medication, every specialist visit, all cataloged with receipts and bank statements. I'd been keeping these records for tax purposes, never imagining they would serve as evidence of betrayal. I gathered the folder, took one more steadying breath, and texted Jenna back. "Be there in 15 minutes. The coffee shop was busy, but I spotted Jenna immediately. At 16, she stood out with her vibrant blue hair and oversized headphones. When she saw me, her face crumpled with guilt. "I'm so sorry," she blurted as I sat down. I didn't know she would say those things. "I was just doing my usual live stream thing, and then Aunt Patricia started talking about you, and it got so mean." It's not your fault, I said, cutting off her rambling. Actually, I need to thank you. Jenna looked confused. Thank me for what? I placed the medical folder on the table and opened it, revealing 5 years of payment records, appointment schedules, and insurance correspondence. For showing me the truth, I said quietly. I've been paying for everything, her medications, treatments, insurance premiums, everything. Jenna's eyes widened as she flipped through the documents. This is thousands of dollars. Over $100,000, actually, I confirmed. I put my entire life on hold for her, my nursing degree, my savings, even relationships. Everything went on the back burner, because I thought she needed me. Jenna looked up from the paperwork, her expression shifting from shock to anger. And she calls you a failure, that's so messed up. I nodded, feeling a strange calm settling over me. I always thought her criticism was her way of motivating me. That underneath it all, she appreciated what I was doing. I laughed bitterly. Yes, I was wrong. So what are you going to do? Jenna asked. I took the folder back, my decision crystallizing as I spoke. I'm done. I've already got the paperwork ready to remove myself from her accounts. You're not going to confront her. I shook my head. What would be the point? She'd just deny it, or tell me I'm being too sensitive. I pulled out my phone and brought up my banking app. I've been putting aside a little money each month, hoping to eventually return to nursing school. Now I'm going to use it for exactly that. As I spoke, I transferred the money, funds I'd earmarked for my mother's next round of treatments, into my personal savings account. The action was small, but it felt monumental. Wow, Jenna whispered. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything, I replied, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. I've spent 5 years being her safety net while she dismisses everything I do. That ends today. I showed Jenna the acceptance letter I'd received months ago from the nursing program. The one I'd nearly deferred again, because of Mom's planned treatments. I start in the fall, I told her, and I'm not deferring again. Jenna reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'll send you the full video, just in case you need it. As we parted ways, I felt the weight of years of obligation lifting. For the first time in so long, I was choosing myself. The guilt I'd expected to feel was nowhere to be found, replaced instead by a sense of clarity and purpose that had been missing for far too long. The insurance company representative sounded confused when I called. You want to remove yourself as the guarantor on Patricia Sullivan's accounts. May I ask why? Personal reasons, I replied, my voice remarkably steady. I'll no longer be responsible for any payments after this month. It was day 3 of my new resolve. I'd spent the weekend in a productive frenzy, calling insurance companies, updating payment information, and drafting emails. My dining room table was covered with paperwork, as I systematically dismantled the financial web I'd created to support my mother. The representative continued. Miss Sullivan, I should inform you that without your support, your mother's premium will increase substantially, and her coverage options may change. I understand, I paused. Could you please send a formal letter explaining these changes to her home address? I want to make sure she's fully informed. Now comment update to tag you on part 2. Update. My cousin live-streamed a family dinner where my mom called me a desperate failure, even though I'd been paying her med bills for 5 years. She laughed while describing how pathetic my life was. So I blocked her number. I knew exactly what I was doing. The letter would arrive in a week, giving me time to implement the rest of my plan before the inevitable confrontation. My phone had been buzzing with messages from my mother since yesterday. She had no idea what I was doing, but she'd expected me to drive her to a doctor's appointment this morning. I hadn't shown up. Where are you? I've been waiting for an hour. The doctor's office called. They said my insurance card was declined. Fix it ASAP. Are you ignoring me? Answer your damn phone, said. Each message strengthened my resolve. I switched my phone to silent and continued working. By evening, I had completed most of the financial separations and moved on to the next phase. I opened my laptop and began composing a single, carefully worded email to be sent to my entire extended family. Dear family, after much consideration, I will no longer be managing my mother's medical care or financial support. For the past 5 years, I have covered all expenses related to her condition, totaling over $120,000. This has included insurance premiums, medication costs, specialist visits, and numerous treatments. I've made this decision for personal reasons, but I wanted you all to be informed as my mother may require assistance moving forward. Attached is a detailed breakdown of the support I've provided over the years, should any of you wish to help. I hope you understand that this was not a decision I made lightly. Best regards, said. I attached the spreadsheet I'd created documenting every payment, every appointment, and every hour spent managing her care. The evidence was irrefutable. My cousin Jenna had sent me the full live stream video as promised. I downloaded it and saved multiple copies, one to my computer, one to my cloud storage, and one to a USB drive. I had no specific plans for the video yet, but something told me it might be necessary. The doorbell rang, startling me. Through the peephole, I saw my mother standing on my porch, her face contorted with anger. I stepped back, my heart racing. Said, I know you're in there. Open this door right now. I remained silent, watching her shadow move beneath the door. You've missed 3 of my calls. My medication refill was denied at the pharmacy. What are you doing? I took a deep breath and spoke clearly through the door. I'm not doing this anymore, Mom. You'll be receiving information from the insurance company soon. I suggest you read it carefully. What are you talking about? Open this door. No, the single word felt powerful on my lips. I've heard what you really think of me. I think it's time we both moved on with our lives. There was a moment of confused silence before she exploded. Is this about money? After everything I've done for you. I almost laughed at the irony. Goodbye, Mom. Please don't come back. As her protest grew louder, I walked away from the door, returning to my laptop to finish what I'd started. With each step, I felt lighter, as if I was finally shedding a burden I'd carried for far too long. The fallout came swiftly. Within hours of sending my email, my phone exploded with notifications. Aunt Maureen was shocked and appalled by my abandonment. Uncle James thought I was being selfish and cruel. My cousin Thomas suggested I sort out whatever petty disagreement I was having with Mom. Only Jenna and, surprisingly, my elderly Aunt Bridget seemed to understand. Bridget's message was simple. It takes courage to stand up for yourself, dear. Call me if you need anything. I blocked my mother's number first, then one by one, I muted the relatives who couldn't bother to ask for my side of the story. The silence that followed was strangely peaceful. 3 days later, I sat in the admissions office at Boston City Nursing School, finalizing my re-enrollment for the fall semester. You've been away from the program for quite some time, Miss Sullivan, the advisor said, reviewing my file. But your previous academic record is strong. You'll need to take a placement exam to determine if any refresher courses are necessary. I understand, I replied, feeling a surge of excitement. I've already started reviewing my old textbooks. As I walked across campus afterward, I felt a sense of belonging that had been missing for years. This was where I was meant to be, pursuing my own dreams instead of living in service to someone else's needs. My real estate business would need adjusting to accommodate my class schedule, but I had already started planning. I'd focus on fewer clients, concentrate on higher value properties, and hire a part-time assistant for administrative tasks. The income would be reduced, but without my mother's expenses, I could manage. When I returned home, a formal-looking envelope awaited me in the mail. Inside was a letter from the insurance company addressed to my mother, mistakenly sent to my address. It detailed the changes to her coverage and the significant increase in premiums, now that I was no longer the guarantor. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt vindicated. My phone rang. Jenna. Have you seen what's happening in the family group chat? She asked, without preamble. I left all those chats, I admitted. What's going on? Your mom is telling everyone you've had some kind of mental breakdown. She's saying you've been under stress from your failing business, and that's why you're acting out. I could hear the air quotes in Jenna's voice. She's completely twisting everything around, I sighed, unsurprised. Classic deflection. That's not all, Jenna continued. She didn't realize I was still in the chat, and she's convinced Aunt Maureen to let her move in temporarily until she sorts out her medical situation. Of course she has, I said, shaking my head. Mom's always been good at finding someone to rescue her. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and found myself staring at the video file Jenna had sent, the live stream that had changed everything. I hadn't watched it since that first devastating viewing in my hotel room. My finger hovered over the play button. There was power in this recording, power to show everyone exactly who my mother was behind closed doors, to vindicate myself in the face of her lies. But did I need that vindication? The family members willing to believe her narrative without even asking me for my side of the story, were they really worth convincing? I closed the laptop without playing the video. I had the evidence if I needed it, but right now, I had more important things to focus on. My nursing application was complete, I'd scheduled my placement exam, and for the first time in years, I was planning for my future, not managing someone else's crisis. The insurance letter sat on my counter, a reminder of the changes I'd set in motion. After a moment's consideration, I addressed a new envelope to my mother's actual residence, placed the letter inside, and added a short note. This was sent to my address by mistake. I suggest you read it carefully. No signature, no emotion, just facts. As I slipped the envelope into the mailbox, I felt another piece of my burden lift away. The consequences of her actions were now hers to bear, not mine. 2 weeks passed in relative calm. I threw myself into preparations for nursing school, studying during every spare moment between real estate showings and client meetings. The placement exam was scheduled for Friday, and I felt a growing confidence with each practice test. Then came the ambush. I was just finishing a showing of a 3-bedroom colonial in Brookline when I spotted them in my rearview mirror, my mother and Aunt Maureen, waiting beside my mother's car in the parking lot. My first instinct was to drive away, but they had clearly seen me. Running would only postpone the inevitable. Now comment update to tag you on part 3.